Alright, this is an original Tales First story, and honestly, this one took a turn I did not expect. Alright, let's get into it.
My parents said, "We are done raising your mistake. Get out and never come back." Then they kicked me and my 5-year-old out in the middle of a snowstorm. 3 hours later, there was a knock at their door. They opened it and started screaming. If you're wondering how orange juice turned into homelessness, same. It was 10:45 p.m., the kind of late where the house was asleep and quiet, and the snow outside was doing that aggressive sideways thing, like it had a personal vendetta. My daughter Zoe couldn't sleep. Not, cute toddler can't sleep. She was 5. She had opinions now. She had questions. She had the emotional range of a tiny CEO who just discovered corporate betrayal. "I don't like the wind," she whispered, eyes shiny in the dark. "It's just weather," I whispered back, like that was comforting, as if weather ever listened to logic. I scooped her up and carried her down the hallway because waking up my parents at night was like poking a bear and then acting surprised when it mauled you. The house was tense even when it was quiet. It was that kind of quiet that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for someone, me, to mess up. I tried to be careful. I tried to do everything right. I tried to be invisible. We made it to the kitchen. I flipped on the smallest light, just enough to see. I moved like a thief in my own house. I poured Zoe a small cup of orange juice because it was the one thing that usually made her settle. It felt like a tiny, harmless solution. Lights on equals problem, footsteps on the stairs, a door opening upstairs. A sigh, heavy with disgust, like I'd committed a crime by needing air. Mom appeared at the top of the stairs, her voice sharp and tired in that special way that meant it wasn't about the moment, it was about me. "What are you doing?" "So he couldn't sleep," I said quietly. "I'm just..." My sister Savannah appeared too, hair messy, face already irritated like she'd been woken from a life of luxury by peasants. Savannah was 17, which is old enough to know better and young enough to think the world owed her silence. She squinted at Zoe like Zoe was a bug on her shoe. "Are you kidding me?" Savannah hissed. "I have school. Some of us actually have plans." I apologized automatically because that was the family religion. Apologize first, explain never. "I'm sorry," I said. "We'll be quick." Savannah stepped farther into the kitchen, arms folded, and said, very calmly, like she'd rehearsed it, "Can you please just keep it down? It's late." Zoe's hands were small and clumsy, shaking. She reached for the cup. Her fingers slipped. The cup tipped. Orange juice spilled onto the carpet. One beat of silence. Just one. My brain instantly went into fix-it mode. Towels. Paper towels. Something. Anything. It's juice. It's not acid. It's not blood. It's not... Dad's footsteps hit the stairs hard enough to make them creak. Mom gasped like the house had been stabbed. Savannah went cold and disgusted. "Are you serious?" I dropped to my knees with towels. "It's okay. It's fine. I'll fix it," I said, talking fast, talking small, like if I made myself tiny enough the moment wouldn't hurt us. Zoe's lip trembled. "I'm sorry. It's okay," I whispered. "Baby, it's okay." Dad moved like he'd been waiting for this, like he'd been sitting there his whole life, waiting for orange juice to give him permission. "I'm done," he said. "I'm done with this." Mom backed him immediately. "This house is not a daycare. We are sick of your mess." "I'll clean it," I said. "It was an accident. She's 5. Savannah added fuel like she always did. "She can't even control her own kid." Dad's eyes fixed on Zoe for half a second. Not like she was a child, like she was evidence. Then he said it. All of it. In one clean hit. Like the sentence had been living on his tongue for years. "We are done raising your mistake. Get out and never come back." For a second, my brain just stalled. Because what do you do with that? What do you do when someone says your child is a mistake like it's a fact? Like it's a stain? I stared at them from the floor, towels in my hands, orange juice soaking into the carpet like a crime scene. Dad, my voice sounded far away. It's snowing. It's a storm. Where are we supposed to? I don't care, he said. Mom didn't look at me. She looked at the carpet. Like the carpet was the victim. I kept thinking, they don't mean it. They'll cool down. Any second now someone will stop this. Any second now Mom will sigh and say, fine, just tonight. Any second now Dad will come to his senses. Nobody stopped it. Dad grabbed bags like he'd practiced this in his head, like there was a checklist and he'd finally gotten to use it. Mom yanked Zoe's coat off a hook and shoved it toward me like evidence. As Dad shoved a bag at me, he twisted the house key off my key ring. He curled it in his fist and said, "These aren't yours anymore." I felt the air leave my lungs. "Just let us stay tonight," I said. "Please. I'll sleep in the car in the driveway. You will not," Savannah said, voice tight. "You're not staying here." Mom didn't look at me. Savannah watched. Too calm. Too satisfied. Dad opened the door. Cold punched in like a fist. Snow blew sideways into the hallway. Zoe whimpered and pressed into my side. They pushed us out like we were trash that needed taking out before morning. The door shut. The lock clicked. It wasn't the shouting that broke me. It was that small, final sound. Zoe started crying right away. Full body, shaking sobs. She looked at the orange stain on her sleeve and whispered, "I'm sorry. It's my fault." I crouched down, wiping her cheeks with my thumbs, trying not to fall apart right there on the porch. "No," I told her. "No. Never your fault. Do you hear me? Never." Inside my head, panic screamed, "I have no plan. I have no one. I have a child." The porch light glared down on us like we were on stage. I hauled the bags to my cheap car, my one tiny piece of independence, and got Zoe buckled in. My hands were shaking so badly I fumbled the latch. Phone battery low. Bank account basically a joke. The kind of money that disappears the second you look at it. I searched my brain for names to call. It was late. Storming. Everyone I knew had warm homes they didn't want to complicate. So I started the car, because sitting still felt like dying. I aimed for the nearest place that meant lights and heat, cheap motel, 24-hour diner, anywhere that wouldn't ask questions and wouldn't kick us out for being too sad. The road was slick. Snow was coming down hard. The windshield wipers fought a losing battle. Zoe sniffled in the back seat. "Where are we going?" I answered too bright, because mothers lie to keep the world from collapsing. "An adventure," I said. Zoe didn't laugh. I was so focused on keeping the car straight that I didn't see the other headlights until an intersection. Ice. A blur. Another car slid. The impact hit hard enough to steal the air from my lungs. Zoe screamed. One sharp sound. And then it cracked into sobbing. The world narrowed to one thing. Her. I twisted around, hands shaking, scanning her face, her arms, her legs. "Talk to me, baby," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Look at me. Are you hurt? Where do you hurt?" She shook her head hard, crying. "I'm scared." I scanned again anyway. Her cheeks, her hands, her coat. No blood. Nothing obvious. Just fear. Loud and real. A woman approached through the snow, steady, controlled, not panicking. She looked in my back seat, saw Zoe's tear-streaked face, saw the bags, saw the whole picture. She didn't bark at me. She didn't accuse me. She didn't even seem angry. She asked quietly, "Why are you out in this weather with a 5-year-old?" I tried to lie, then couldn't. "We got kicked out," I heard myself say. "Tonight." Her face changed like she'd been slapped by the sentence. "What's your name?" she asked. "Clara," I said. Her eyes flicked to my face like she was checking it against a memory she didn't want to be right. Then she said very quietly, like she was talking to herself, "Clara Walker." I froze. "I haven't seen you since what? You were in my—" She stopped herself. "Where did you go?" How did she know my last name? I learned early that my role in the house wasn't daughter. It was buffer. Savannah cried. My parents soothed. I achieved. My parents nodded and moved on. If Savannah was upset, the universe stopped. If I was upset, I was told to be mature. I learned to shrink because taking up space always cost me. I didn't know why they needed a villain in the family until the year I got pregnant. Before that, I had a path, a real one. Sophomore year, I got into a selective State University Future Scholars Research Mentorship program for high-performing high school students. It wasn't a sit in a lecture and clap politely program. It was real work. Every Saturday, a small group of us met on campus and worked on a project. Data collection, presentations, reports. The whole "this could be your life someday" thing. And built into it was the part that made me feel like a person with a future. A weekly one-on-one mentor meeting. 15 minutes that felt like oxygen. Someone who asked me what I wanted, not what I'd done wrong. I kept one thing from that program. One small thing. I didn't know it would come back when everything fell apart. It was my future scholar's badge on a blue lanyard. I never wore it again, but I never threw it away. Back then, I thought my life was finally opening. Then I fell for Brendan. Brendan was sweet when it was easy and distant when it got real. He made me feel chosen after living in a house where I was mostly tolerated. So yes, I fell hard. Like a cliché. Like a girl who'd been starving for affection and mistook attention for love. When I found out I was pregnant, my first thought wasn't fear. It was, I can still do this. I can still finish school, still do the program, still be me. I was 15 at the time. Brendan was 17. He promised he'd be there, then stopped replying. Later I found out that he moved away for college, to Europe. I haven't heard much from him since. I thought the hardest part would be telling my parents. I was wrong. I told them in the kitchen, hands shaking so badly I could barely get the words out. There was a pause, just long enough for hope to flicker. Then my mother's face changed first. Not anger, disgust. My father didn't ask if I was okay. He asked who knew. They didn't say, "How can we help?" They said things like, "Do you know what people will think? You embarrassed us. You threw your future away." Savannah watched like it was entertainment. Like this proved something she'd always believed about me. I expected punishment. I didn't expect erasure. They decided I wouldn't go back to school for a while. Then it became homeschool. Then it became, you're not going back at all. They said it was to avoid gossip, to keep the family respected, to not parade my shame around. Like my body was a billboard and my baby was a scandal. They pushed me to drop the mentorship program immediately. No more Saturdays, no more meetings, no more future. I tried to fight it. I tried to bargain. I tried, just let me finish the semester. My father said something like, "If you weren't smart enough to avoid getting pregnant, you're not smart enough for college." And that was that. The program moved on without me. I stopped showing up. I stopped answering calls. The worst part is, I didn't even get to say goodbye. Zoe was born, and I loved her so fiercely it scared me. But in that house, love didn't protect you. It just gave them another target. My parents treated Zoe like noise, mess, inconvenience. Never fully cruel in public, always cruel in private. Savannah got a normal teen life. Sleepovers, school, friends. I got exhaustion and reminders that I owed my parents for letting me stay. I promised my daughter she was never a mistake. And then, 5 years later, she spilled orange juice. Back in the car, my mouth was still open with a question I couldn't ask. Zoe's voice came small behind me. Mommy, are we going home? My hands locked around the steering wheel like it could fix things. We're going somewhere warm, I said, because that's what you say when you don't have a home and your kid is 5. Outside my window, the woman didn't look angry. She looked alert, like she was already scanning for the next thing that could go wrong. She leaned just enough so Zoe could see her face. Then her eyes flicked over Zoe, seatbelt, cheeks, hands, quick, checking, not lingering, and she looked at me. Is she hurt? No, I said too fast. I don't think so. She's just scared. Zoe made a small broken sound that confirmed it. The woman nodded once. Okay. My heart was still trying to climb out of my chest. Snow hissed across the glass. I'm sorry, I blurted. I didn't see you. I was... She cut through it like she'd heard panic before. It's a bumper, she said. Don't worry about it. I stared at her. Most people worry about bumpers. Entire neighborhood feuds have started over less. I hit you, I said, because my brain needed reality acknowledged. Needed someone to be mad so the world made sense. You misjudged in a storm, she corrected. That happens. Then, like she was changing channels. How old is she? 5. Her expression tightened. Not at me. Not at the dent. At the 5. She looked at Zoe again. Hi, sweetheart. What's your name? Zoe hesitated. Looked at me like she was asking if we were allowed to speak. Zoe, I said for her. Her name is Zoe. The woman nodded. Hi, Zoe. I'm Simona. Then she looked back at me. Clara, where were you headed? A motel, I said, and it sounded pathetic the second it left my mouth. And after that? She asked. My throat tightened. I don't know. She didn't judge me. She didn't pity me. She just waited. Like she could tell the truth was right there and she didn't need to chase it. I swallowed. My voice came out small. My parents kicked us out, I said. Tonight? Something shifted in her face. Not surprise. More like anger deciding where to land. In this weather? She asked, voice quiet. I nodded once. Zoe made a small whimper behind me, like she understood enough to be scared. Simona exhaled through her nose. Then she said very calmly, like she'd made a decision that didn't require my permission. Okay. You're not driving anywhere else tonight. I have to, I said automatically. I don't have... I heard you, she said. You don't have anywhere. That's why you're not driving. She stepped back from my window and pointed toward a small parking lot nearby. Hazards on, she said. Pull into that lot. Slow. I'll follow you. I wanted to argue. My pride tried to sit up like it still had rights. But Zoe whispered, Mommy. And my pride sat back down immediately. I flicked my hazards on. I eased the car forward and into the lot with the delicacy of someone defusing a bomb. Simona parked behind me. She got out, took 2 quick photos of the bumpers and the intersection, then tucked her phone away like she'd just filed the dent into a drawer labeled later. I got out too, and the cold hit hard enough to steal my breath. I'm really sorry, I said again, because I guess I'm committed to this brand. It's fine, she said, eyes already on Zoe through the glass. Is her car seat secure? Yes. Good. Then she looked at me. Do you have your keys? My car key, I said. Yeah. My house key. No, he took it. Her jaw tightened slightly. Okay. She didn't say more. She walked to her back door, opened it, and pulled out a blanket. Not as a dramatic prop. Just matter of fact. Like she kept one because life happens. She spread the blanket across the back seat and opened the door. Hey, she said softly. Come sit here. We're getting warm. Zoe stared at her, then checked my face. I nodded. It's okay, baby. She climbed in, coat clutched tight, and her breathing finally slowed. I grabbed our bags from my car. My fingers fumbled the zipper. I dropped one bag because of course I did. Simona picked it up and handed it to me without making it a moment. "Lock your car," she said. I did. That click felt too small for the night we were living. And then I slid into the front seat of Simona's car, heart still trying to climb out of my throat. As we drove, my brain tried to catch up. It finally remembered the thing she'd said at the crash. Quiet. Exact. "Walker?" I didn't ask. Zoe was right behind us, listening. And I couldn't risk the answer being something she'd carry. Simona drove in calm silence for a minute, then asked, "Do you have any friends you can call?" I stared at the dashboard. "No." No explanation. No excuses. Just no. She nodded once. "Okay." That word again. "Okay." Like it was a fact, not a failure. We pulled up to a modest house with warm lights. Nothing flashy. Nothing cold. Just stable. Inside, heat wrapped around us so suddenly my eyes stung. Zoe sagged under the blanket the moment the door shut, like her body had been holding itself together on pure fear. Simona disappeared for 30 seconds and came back with thick socks and a mug of hot chocolate that smelled like it had actual effort in it. Zoe blinked up at her. "Are you nice?" she asked, because 5-year-olds have no filter. Simona paused like she was choosing her words carefully. "I'm trying," she said. "Is that okay?" Zoe looked at me. I nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, baby." Simona turned to me. "Sit." I sat on the edge of the couch, still in my coat, still braced for yelling that never came. The house was quiet. Soft lamps, books, a neat stack of mail, one coat on a hook, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel like a trap. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, so I opened my bag just to give them something to do, and the blue Future Scholars lanyard peeked out. My face went hot. Of course I still had it. Like some embarrassing little souvenir from the life I didn't get to live. I shoved it down fast, like hiding it would hide the fact that I used to be someone with a plan. Simona's eyes flicked to it anyway. She didn't say anything, but she went still, just for a beat. Then she stepped into the light by the kitchen doorway, and my brain finally did the thing it should have done earlier. Her posture, her voice, the way she looked at me like I mattered. My stomach dropped. "No," I whispered. Her expression softened. Sadness, maybe. Or relief. Or both. "It's me," she said quietly. "Dr. Carr." The room tilted. Dr. Simona Carr. My mentor. 5 years ago. The one adult who'd looked at me like I had a future instead of a flaw. Zoe yawned and slid sideways against the couch cushion, too tired to notice my entire brain combusting. Dr. Carr kept her voice low. "Where did you go?" I tried to make it small. Life happened. She waited. Not pressure. Space. And the truth came out in rough pieces. Pregnant at 15, pulled out of school, homeschool. No diploma, no program, no goodbye. Years stuck. Tonight's lockout. I waited for the look, the disgust, the disappointment. It didn't come. She nodded once, slow, then asked, "What's still in that house that you need?" "My wallet," I said automatically. "Zoe's school papers." I stopped, because my brain finally caught up. "My EpiPen," I said. "Shellfish allergy." I tried to shrug it off like it wasn't a big deal, like I wasn't one cross-contamination away from a nightmare. Dr. Carr didn't let me. "No," she said, quiet and absolute. "We're not gambling with that." "I'm not going back there." "Of course you don't," she said. "We'll get what you need." She slid a notepad toward me. "Essentials. Now." My pen moved. EpiPen. Wallet. Zoe's school papers. Anything with our names on it. Dr. Carr called non-emergency. I caught fragments. Lockout. Minor child. Emergency medication. Civil standby. Avoid confrontation. Then my phone lit up. Dad. Then Mom. I stared at the screen for half a second too long. Dr. Carr stayed close, silent. I answered. Hello? My dad shouted immediately. What did you do? We had police at our door in the middle of the night. Mom cut in, furious. How dare you call police on your own parents? Do you know how this looks? My throat tightened. The old reflex, apologize, shrink, tried to climb up my spine. I looked at Zoe, curled up on the couch, finally asleep. I called because I needed my EpiPen, I said. That's it. Dad scoffed. Always a story. I'm hanging up, I said. They talked over each other, louder, uglier. I hit end. Click. Later, an officer brought back the essentials, my EpiPen, my wallet, Zoe's forms, and took a brief statement. What happened? Are we safe? Is Zoe safe? When the door closed again, the quiet finally felt different. Not the quiet before punishment, the quiet after survival. Dr. Carr didn't praise me, didn't lecture me. She just asked, Are you hungry? It was so normal it almost broke me. Later, after Zoe was tucked under a blanket and my EpiPen was placed somewhere I could grab fast, I said, because politeness is my default even when my life is on fire. Thank you. We'll find somewhere tomorrow. Dr. Carr looked at Zoe, then at me. You can stay here, she said. Not pity, not a suggestion, a fact. For tonight? I whispered. She shook her head once. Until you're stable. Until you're safe. Zoe's eyes fluttered open, like she'd been listening from the edge of sleep. Can we stay? She whispered. And the scariest part was this. I still didn't know why she was doing it. Why she was so nice to us. I only knew what it felt like to imagine morning without fear. The next morning was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the calm after a fire. Everything still smells like smoke, even if the flames are gone. Zoe slept on Dr. Carr's couch like she'd earned it. I didn't. I sat upright, fully dressed, staring at my phone like it might bite. No calls, no texts, no screaming. The silence was suspicious. Dr. Carr slid a mug of coffee toward me like it was medicine. Not comforting, functional. She sat across from me. Where do you work? Grocery store, I said. Stocking. Mornings. And you're scheduled today? I missed it. She didn't blink. We'll call. We. That word landed like a door unlocking. She put the phone on speaker so I couldn't hide from my own life. I explained. Weather, accident, emergency. I can come tomorrow. My manager grumbled, but the shift stayed mine. When the call ended, my shoulders dropped a fraction. Zoe wandered in, rubbing her eyes. She looked around like she expected the room to vanish. Are we still here? She asked. Yeah, baby. I kissed her forehead. We're still here. Zoe nodded. Then, are they still mad? I almost told the truth. That my parents didn't have mad settings. They had permanent disappointment settings. Instead, I said, we're safe. Zoe accepted that like kids do. Like safety is a fact you can hold on to. After I dropped Zoe at school, I came back and stood in Dr. Carr's kitchen like a person waiting to be yelled at. She glanced at me. You don't have to wear that face here. What face? The one that says you're bracing. I laughed once. It came out rough. Old habit. She nodded like she understood old habits too well. Then she said, matter of fact, you never finished school. My stomach tightened. No. GED? She asked. No. She didn't ask why. She didn't lecture. She just looked at me and said, do you want to finish? The question hit like a slap because I'd spent years believing I didn't get to want things anymore. I work, I said automatically. Zoe, she's in school. Dr. Carr said. And you're smart. That was, I started. 5 years ago, she finished. Not 50. I hated that she was right. She slid a notepad across the table. Not a motivational quote. A plan. 2 hours a night, she said. 4 nights a week. We start small. We don't negotiate with shame. I stared at the notepad like it might explode. And if I fail? I asked. Then you take it again, she said, like gravity was optional. That was the moment it stopped feeling cozy. It felt like rebellion. Not dramatic rebellion. Quiet rebellion. The kind that looks like a grown woman opening a math book and refusing to believe the voice that says she's too late. My schedule became ridiculous on purpose. Work early mornings, Zoe's school drop-off, study at Dr. Carr's table while Zoe colored beside me, dinner, bath, Zoe's bedtime. Then another hour with a book I'd been told I didn't deserve. Some nights I wanted to quit. Not because it was hard, because it made me angry. Angry that my parents stole my education and called it discipline. Angry that I had to rebuild what should have been mine the first time. The first time I passed a GED practice test, Zoe cheered like I'd won a championship. Mom is smart, she announced. I snorted. Mom is stubborn. When I passed the real test, I cried in my car in a parking lot like a person with excellent emotional regulation. Zoe asked why I was crying, and I told her, happy. And she said, oh, like happy crying was normal. Then community college. Because tuition doesn't care about inspirational stories. I kept my job. I took classes when I could. I learned to live in the space between not enough time and do it anyway. Dr. Carr didn't rescue me with speeches. She showed up with logistics. A ride when my car wouldn't start. Babysitting when Zoe got sick and I had an exam. A calm email when a professor acted like accommodations were a moral failure. I didn't become fearless. I became practiced. Then I transferred back to State University. Walking onto campus felt like stepping into an alternate timeline, one where I hadn't been erased. And there, on a random weekday, I saw the building where future scholars used to meet. My stomach flipped so hard it felt like the past had hands. Dr. Carr didn't say anything. She just walked beside me. Student-parent life on campus was brutal. Everyone acted like you could be a perfect student if you just managed your time, as if time management includes materializing childcare from thin air. I met other student moms in quiet panic, always apologizing, always one emergency away from dropping out. So I started helping, small at first, a group chat, shared notes, babysitting swaps, a list of, who can you call at midnight? Dr. Carr watched it grow, and one night slid an envelope across her table. Funding opportunity, she said. Write a proposal. I stared. I'm not qualified. She lifted an eyebrow. You're living it. That's more qualified than most. So I wrote it. We got the grant. Then another. The first time a mom told me, this kept me enrolled. I went to the bathroom and cried for exactly 30 seconds, because I still had a shift to work. Somewhere in that year, Dr. Carr's kindness started to feel less like charity and more like choice. Zoe's drawings appeared on her fridge. Snacks Zoe liked were always in the pantry. A small toothbrush in the upstairs bathroom that hadn't been there at first. One night, Zoe fell asleep on the couch with homework on her lap. Dr. Carr covered her with a blanket and stood there for a beat too long. The question slipped out before I could swallow it. Why are you doing this? Dr. Carr didn't look at me right away. She watched Zoe breathe. I thought I had time, she said quietly. I waited. I kept postponing the family part, she added. Career. Tenure. Later. And then, later, didn't show up. Her voice stayed controlled. Her hand didn't. This house has been quiet for a long time, she said. I didn't know what to do with that honesty, so I made it a little lighter. So, we're your loud little invasion. Her mouth twitched. Something like that. Then she looked at me and said the part I'll never forget. I chose you, not because I needed a project, because no child should grow up believing she's a mistake. My throat closed. I nodded because I still didn't know how to accept something good without apologizing for it. By the time graduation came, Zoe was 10, old enough to remember the storm like a scar. And Savannah was graduating too. Same university, same ceremony. My parents were there for her. Of course they were. I saw them before they saw me and felt something old try to rise, an instinct to shrink. It didn't win. The announcer's voice rolled through the auditorium. Please welcome our student speaker and founder of the Student Parent Support Initiative, Clara Walker. I stepped into the light. Savannah was clapping, then her hands froze midair. 2 rows behind her, my mom's face drained so fast it looked unreal. My dad leaned forward, staring like his eyes could undo time. I reached the podium and adjusted the mic. Good evening, I said. I'm Clara Walker. I'm a graduate. And I'm a mom. Zoe sat near the front with Dr. Carr, staring up at me like she was holding me steady. When Zoe was 5, I said, my parents looked at me and said, we are done raising your mistake. Get out and never come back. The room went dead quiet. Heads turned, subtle at first, then sharper, toward the section where my parents sat frozen. My mom covered her mouth. My dad's hands clenched together until his knuckles went white. Savannah stared hard at her lap like it might swallow her. They took my house key, I continued, voice level. They pushed a couple bags into my arms. They shut the door while it was snowing sideways. I didn't need to embellish it. The truth carried itself. I sat in my car with a child asking me if we were going home, I said. And I had to answer like a mother even when I felt like a scared kid myself. You could feel the room change. People weren't politely listening anymore. They were there. And that same night, I got into a minor car accident, I said. Nobody was hurt. But I remember thinking, of course. A few uneasy laughs, because pain plus timing is comedy's darker cousin. The woman who got out of the other car didn't care about the bumper, I said. She asked me one question. Where are you going? I paused. I said, I don't know. Silence. Heavy. Real. She took us home, I said. She gave us a home. I turned toward the front row. That woman is Dr. Simona Carr. Applause hit fast. Dr. Carr didn't stand. She just nodded once, eyes bright. That's why this initiative exists, I said. Because being smart doesn't matter if you don't have childcare. Ambition doesn't matter if one sick day can knock you out of school, and nobody should have to choose between feeding their kid and finishing a degree. I let it land. If someone has ever called you a mistake, I finished, voice steady, they were wrong. I stepped back from the mic. The applause rose, stronger now, not polite anymore. My mom was crying openly. My dad stared straight ahead like the floor had shifted. Savannah still couldn't lift her hands to clap. For the first time in my life, they didn't get to control the story. Afterward, they found me. Of course they did. Tears. Apologies. The sudden, desperate need to rewrite history into something softer. I didn't raise my voice. I forgive you, I told them, because I didn't want poison in my body forever. But I'm not coming back. They tried family is family. I looked at Zoe, then at Dr. Carr. No, I said quietly. Family is who shows up. And I walked away. Not angry, not triumphant, just done. Because my life wasn't a punishment anymore. It was mine. Everyone loves to say, but they're your parents, until they're the ones getting thrown out in a snowstorm. I forgave them. I just didn't hand them access to my life. Reconnect or no contact. What would you choose? Comment below. And subscribe if you want more. While my 8-year-old was in the hospital fighting for her life, my parents sold our belongings and gave our room to my sister. You were late with the payment, they said casually. I didn't cry. I took action. 3 months later, they saw us and went completely pale. We got released on a Tuesday afternoon, which felt wrong on principle. Tuesday is for errands and emails and forgetting what day it is, not for walking out of a hospital with your kid and trying to pretend your hands aren't still shaking. Chloe stood at the automatic doors with her rabbit tucked under one arm and her other hand wrapped around my fingers like a seatbelt. She looked better than she had. She also looked like someone who'd learned too early that grown-ups can say, "It's okay," while attaching tubes to you. "We're going home now?" she asked, as if I might change my mind and swing back toward the elevators. "We're going home," I said. I kept my voice light, lighter than I felt, because she was watching me the way kids do after something scary, like my face was the weather report. In the car, she stared out the window and then back at me, checking. "My bed is still there, right?" "Yeah," I said. "Your bed is still there." We shared a bedroom at my parents' house, but Chloe had her own little bed and her moon projector, and a pile of books she insisted were for emergencies. I had my narrow bed on the other side of the room, and the kind of drawer space you get when you are a temporary person in someone else's permanent life. She sighed and leaned her head back. "I want my blanket." "I know," I said, and meant it. Not just the blanket, the whole idea of familiar things. When we parked, I unbuckled Chloe slowly. She didn't complain. She just held still and let me help her out. I hate that, how calm kids get when they've had too much. Like their bodies decide being compliant is safer than being a kid. "Rabbit," she reminded me. "I've got him," I said. I had the rabbit, the pharmacy bag, the folder, and my keys. That felt like enough to carry for one person. The front door opened before I could get the key in the lock. My mom was there with a smile that looked practiced, but warm enough to pass if you weren't inspecting it under a microscope. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, eyes going straight to Chloe. "Look at you." My dad hovered behind her, one hand on the door frame like he was waiting for instructions. My sister Megan stood in the hallway. Her son Aiden was beside her, quiet and watchful. For a split second, my brain did the normal thing. They knew we were coming. They're here. They're being decent. Chloe's face brightened in that careful way she'd developed lately, like happiness was something you tried on first to see if it hurt. "Hi," she said. "Hi, honey," my mom said. She touched the top of Chloe's head lightly, like Chloe was made of glass. "Come inside. It's cold." Chloe leaned toward the stairs immediately, rabbit pinned to her ribs. "Can we go to my room now?" "Yeah," I said, relieved to have something simple. "Let's get you settled. Blanket first." I shifted the pharmacy bag higher on my arm and stepped forward. My mom's hand landed on my elbow. Not a grab. A pause. Like a polite person stopping you from stepping into traffic. "Jenna," she said, still smiling, "before you go up, do you have somewhere to sleep tonight?" It took my brain a full second to process the sentence. "What?" I said. "Tonight," she repeated gently, like I was the one being confusing. "Where are you staying tonight?" Chloe's fingers tightened around the rabbit's ear. She looked between my face and my mom's. "We live here," I said. The words came out flat, because that's what facts sound like. My mom nodded as if we agreed. "Right, and about that." There it was, the little tilt in her tone, the "you're not going to like this," wrapped in politeness. My stomach tightened. "About what?" My mom exhaled softly. "Megan's been using your room." I stared at her. "My room." "The room you were using," she corrected immediately, like she could edit reality with vocabulary. Chloe's head lifted. "My bed is in there." Megan's eyes flicked away. Aiden suddenly became fascinated by the stitching on his own sleeve. My dad cleared his throat. "Jenna, no," I said, quiet but sharp. "Explain it." My mom's smile stayed. It didn't crack. It just held. You weren't here for 2 weeks. I was in the hospital. Yes, she said quickly, like she was agreeing with me. And during that time, you weren't using the room. The sentence felt insane in my mouth, like saying it made me complicit in it. And you didn't pay your monthly contribution, she added, still soft. There it was. The reason. The hinge. I told you I'd pay later, I said. I was focused on Chloe. I understand, my mom said, and the way she said it made my skin crawl because it sounded like something she'd say to a cashier about a coupon that expired. But we couldn't keep things empty. Chloe's voice was small. We didn't leave. I was sick. I tightened my arm around her without thinking. Mother bear, automatic. What did you do with our stuff? I asked. My mom blinked like she hadn't expected me to go there so fast. Most of it is boxed. Boxed where? In the garage, my dad said, like he was offering helpful directions. Most? I repeated, because that word was sitting in my throat like a stone. My mom's smile shifted. Barely. We had to sell some of it. Chloe blinked hard. Sell my stuff? It wasn't being used, my mom said casually, like that was a normal thing to say to a child holding a hospital discharge folder's worth of trauma. My mouth went dry. What did you sell? My dad answered, like he'd rehearsed it. The game console, the tablet, the headphones. Chloe went very still. Not tears, not anger. Just blank shock, like her brain stepped back to protect her. My headphones? She whispered. Megan jumped in, voice quick and bright, trying to plaster over the moment. Jenna, it wasn't like we wanted to. Money was tight and Aiden had his deposit due. Aiden's deposit, I repeated. Megan nodded, relieved to have a justification. For his competition. Non-refundable. We needed it by Friday. I stared at her, then at my mom. So, while Chloe was in the hospital, you sold her things to pay for Aiden. My mom's smile widened a fraction, like she was offended by my wording. You missed your contribution. Chloe's hand slid into mine, tight enough to hurt. Show me the boxes, I said. We walked to the garage. The garage smelled like dust and cold concrete. Stacks of boxes lined one wall. Some had my kid's name on them in thick marker. Chloe, clothes, Chloe, books, written in my mom's handwriting. Chloe reached out and touched the letters with 2 fingers. That's my name. I know, I said. Behind us, my mom followed like this was a reasonable tour. We kept the important things. Like what? I said before I could stop myself. The stuff that doesn't have a resale value? My dad's jaw tightened. My mom's smile flickered. Then it came back, brighter, as if she'd just remembered she was supposed to look kind. Megan needed help, she said. I turned my head slowly. Megan lived somewhere else. Megan lifted her chin. Rent is expensive. So is a hospital, I said. My mom stepped in smoothly, like she always did when things started getting uncomfortable. Jenna, she said, there's no reason to turn this into a confrontation. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. So, I said, keeping my eyes on her because Chloe was right there. While Chloe and I were in the hospital for 2 weeks, you moved Megan and her son into our room. My mom made a small, precise motion with her hand. No, she said. Not exactly. I paused. We moved Megan into your room, she continued calmly. Aiden is in the guest room. There was a beat where my brain tried to understand why that distinction mattered. The guest room, I repeated. Yes, she said, relieved, like she'd just corrected a minor detail that had been bothering her. Chloe frowned. We weren't allowed to use that room. No, I said quietly. We weren't. I let that sit for a second, then said it back the way it actually was. So, you gave my room to Megan, you gave the guest room to Aiden, you sold Chloe's things, and you packed the rest into boxes. My mom's shoulders relaxed, just a little, like she was glad we'd finally gotten the facts straight. That's right, she said. She tilted her head, her voice softening again, like this was the part meant to fix things. And that's why I asked if you have somewhere to sleep tonight. I waited. If you don't, she continued, you can stay for a couple of nights. We'll set up the sofa. It doesn't have to be a big deal. A couple of nights. Like this was a scheduling issue. Like we'd misplaced a hotel reservation. Chloe's hand slid into mine. Mom, she whispered. Where do we sleep? I looked at my parents, at my sister, at the boxes stacked in the garage with my daughter's name written on them in my mother's handwriting, on the sofa. I nodded once. Not agreement, just acknowledgement. Okay, I said. My mom smiled, relieved, like she'd done something kind. See, she said. We're being flexible. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't say anything else. I took Chloe's jacket from the hook and helped her into it. She didn't ask questions. She just let me zip it up. My dad frowned. Jenna, where are you going? Out, I said. For how long? My mom asked. I paused, hand on the door. I don't know, I said. And that was the truth. Outside, the air felt sharper than before. Chloe climbed into the passenger seat slowly, carefully, like she was afraid of doing something wrong. I started the car. The engine sounded too loud in the quiet street. Chloe buckled herself in and looked at me. We're not staying? I shook my head. No! She nodded once, absorbing it, then leaned back against the seat. Okay, she said. Can we drive for a little bit? Yeah, I said. We can drive. I pulled away from the curb. In the rearview mirror, my parents' house looked exactly the same as it always had. I didn't know where we were going. I just knew we weren't going back. Megan is 2 years older than me, and in my family that somehow meant she mattered more. Not in a dramatic soap opera way. My parents would swear up and down they treat their kids the same. They just didn't. It showed in the decisions that were always framed as practical. The small choices that add up until you stop calling them choices and start calling them a pattern. Megan got comfort as a default. I got expectations. Megan got, oh honey, come here. I got, you're strong, you'll figure it out. Which sounds like a compliment until you realize it's actually a way of stepping back without feeling guilty. When Megan had Aiden, the favoritism didn't end. It upgraded. Aiden became the grandchild my parents planned around. Not because he was a prodigy or because they were strict sports people. The opposite. It was always pitched as fun. Aiden's big thing wasn't about training until your knees give out. It was about getting to go somewhere cool, like the travel baseball weekends. If you've never dealt with travel baseball, it's basically this. A bunch of kids in matching shirts, parents hauling folding chairs, and adults pretending they're not just paying for a mini vacation with a side of baseball. Aiden's team had one coming up in a beach town. Not a serious tournament, not a career move. A beach town. The kind with a boardwalk, overpriced ice cream, and kids running around in sandals still wearing their jerseys because they think it makes them look important. Aiden wouldn't stop talking about it. The ocean, the hotel pool, the team dinner, the idea of waking up somewhere that isn't home and getting to say, we're here for baseball. Like that explained everything. My parents ate it up. They called it an opportunity, but what they meant was, we want him to have a good time. Chloe didn't get that kind of energy. Chloe got labeled easy, which is a word adults use when they don't want to admit a child has learned to shrink. Both Megan and I are divorced, and that's where the difference in treatment got impossible to ignore. When Megan's marriage ended, my parents rallied like it was their shared mission. My mom blamed Megan's ex immediately. My dad did the grim headshake and the "he never deserved you" line. Megan could do nothing wrong because she was going through it. When my marriage ended, years earlier, when Chloe was smaller and my life was a lot less stable, my parents didn't rally. They assessed. They offered a room, but not comfort. Living with them wasn't free. It wasn't even soft. There was a monthly contribution, the kind they insisted was fair, plus the unspoken expectation that I'd make myself useful. Extra errands, extra chores, extra "can you just" tasks that weren't requests, because in that house, requests were for Megan. I paid to live there, and then I paid again in labor. I did it because I had to. Because rent doesn't care that you're exhausted and single-parent math doesn't magically stretch. What made it sting wasn't paying. It was watching money become optional when it was for Megan. My parents would hand her cash for Aiden's stuff. They'd cover little extras without discussion: new cleats, a team hoodie, the deposit that had to be paid by Friday. Everything was urgent when it was for him. Everything was flexible when it was for her. But when it was me, it was always rules, always deadlines, always "we can't." Before Megan's divorce, before Aiden's beach weekend baseball dreams, before my parents started treating me like a tenant with chores attached, there was one other adult in that house, my Grandma Helen, my mom's mom. When I was little, 6 maybe, she was just there. Not in the background, in the room. In the way that matters when you're a kid and you don't know you're keeping score yet. I remember one night I couldn't sleep because Megan was crying in her room again. Not hurt crying, performance crying. The kind that made my mom rush in like the house was on fire. I was standing in the hallway in my socks, too small to do anything except listen. My grandma found me there. She didn't tell me to go back to bed. She didn't say, "Stop lurking." She led me into the kitchen, set a glass of water on the table like it was a serious appointment, and slid a cookie toward me like she was bribing a tiny witness. "Your sister's loud," she said quietly. I snorted. I couldn't help it. It slipped out. She didn't scold me for that either. She just tilted her head and said, "You're allowed to have feelings, you know." No one had ever said that to me like it was a fact. That's what I remember most. Not some grand gesture, not a big speech. Just an adult making room for me in a house where attention was always already spent. And then she disappeared from my life so cleanly, it felt like someone erased her. Her chair stopped being at the table. Her mug stopped being in the cabinet. I asked where she went, and my mom answered without looking up from whatever she was doing, like it was a question about the weather. She left. That was the first version. After that, the versions multiplied. She was difficult. She was dramatic. She always wanted something. She couldn't be trusted. Sometimes my mom implied money. Sometimes she implied betrayal. The details changed, but the rule didn't. Don't ask, don't miss her. Don't bring her up. So I didn't. When you're 6, you don't argue with the person who feeds you. You just learn what topics cost too much. You swallow the memory and tell yourself you must have misunderstood what you felt back then. I knew she was alive somewhere about an hour away. That was all. A fact on the edge of the family map. A person I'd been trained to treat like a warning label. I didn't know where else to go. That was the whole problem. Not where to stay, not what to do next. Just the absence of an address that didn't come with conditions. Chloe sat in the passenger seat, rabbit tucked under her arm, staring straight ahead like if she didn't look at me, I wouldn't have to explain anything yet. "Are we staying somewhere?" she asked. "Yes," I said. She waited. "I'm just figuring out where," I added. She nodded once. Didn't ask again. That's when I knew she understood more than I wanted her to. I drove for a few minutes with no destination, just movement. Then I pulled into a parking lot and did the one thing my mother had trained me not to do. I called my grandma Helen. I still had her number. I didn't know why I'd kept it. Habit, maybe. Or the part of my brain that refuses to throw away exits. It rang twice. Hello? Her voice was calm, not suspicious, not guarded. It's Jenna, I said. Your granddaughter. A pause. Then, Jenna. Just my name. Nothing else. No accusation. No why now. We need somewhere to stay, I said. I didn't soften it. I didn't dress it up. Where are you? She asked. I told her. Come here, she said. I'll be home. That was it. I hung up and sat there for a second with my hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. Chloe looked at me. Was that your grandma? Yes, I said. She's nice? I remember her being, I said. That's all I know. We drove about an hour. Chloe dozed in short stretches, waking whenever we slowed down, like her body still didn't trust transitions. When we arrived, the building was small and quiet. No drama, no luxury, just there. My grandma Helen opened the door before I knocked. She looked older than I remembered and exactly the same in the ways that mattered. Her eyes went straight to Chloe. Oh, she said softly. Come in. No questions, no hesitation. She stepped aside and let us enter like it was obvious we belonged there. Chloe hovered near me. My grandma didn't reach for her. She didn't crowd her. She just said, "Couch is fine," and set a blanket down like she'd already decided Chloe was staying. Water appeared, then silence. Chloe curled up under the blanket without being told. Rabbit under her chin. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. My grandma sat across from me. What happened? She said. Not why. Not what did you do. Just what happened. I told her the short version. Hospital. Discharge. Came home. Room gone. Things boxed. Some sold. Her jaw tightened. They sold her things, she said. Yes. For what? I hesitated for half a second, then said it. A deposit for Aiden. Travel baseball. Beach weekend. That did it. My grandma let out a short breath through her nose. Not a laugh. Not quite anger. Recognition. Your mother, she said. Chloe shifted slightly. They sold my headphones. My grandma's face softened instantly. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Chloe nodded like she didn't trust herself to speak. My grandma turned back to me. She told you I left? Yes. Did she tell you why? Different reasons, I said. Depending on the day. My grandma nodded. I lived with you when you were little. I worked. I helped. Then I hurt my back. Couldn't do what I used to. Couldn't be useful anymore. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize it. When I stopped being useful, she said, your mother decided I was a problem. That explanation fit everything too cleanly to argue with. She sat there for a moment, hands folded, looking past me at Chloe curled under the blanket like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. I wish I could fix this the easy way, she said finally. I wish I could hand you cash and tell you to sleep. I didn't answer, because there was nothing to say to that without turning it into a performance. My grandma exhaled and stood up. I don't have money like that, she said over her shoulder, almost annoyed with herself. Not sitting around, not solve your life in one day money. She disappeared into her bedroom and came back with a worn cardboard box, the kind that had been opened and closed too many times and still refused to die. "My husband kept some old certificates," she said, setting it down carefully. "I never dealt with them. Most of it is probably worthless, but I don't know. Maybe there's something in here that helps, even if it's just enough to get you stable for a month." She glanced at Chloe, then back at me, like she was offering this with both hands and no pride left in it. I thanked her, because it was the only thing I could do without cracking. That night, after Chloe finally fell asleep, rabbit tucked under her chin, breathing even again, I sat at the small table with the box in front of me and my phone beside it. I opened the box and immediately understood one thing. I had no idea what I was looking at. They weren't checks. They weren't cash. Just old paper with company names on them. Some of them sounded familiar. Most of them didn't. So I started looking them up. One by one. Most went nowhere. Companies that didn't exist anymore. Names that led to dead pages or collector forums. A few were technically worth something, but nothing that would change anything. Enough to buy groceries, maybe. Enough to feel disappointed. Then I pulled out one that said, Apple Computer Inc. I stopped. Not because I know finance, because I know what Apple is. I checked the paper again, just to make sure I wasn't misreading it. There was a note attached, faded but clear. $400. I looked it up, expecting maybe a few thousand if I was lucky. Enough for a deposit somewhere cheap. Enough to breathe for a month. That wasn't what came up. What came up was a very simple explanation. Shares bought decades ago don't stay the same. Over the years, they multiply. I did the math. If he bought about $400 worth back then, that was 18 shares. Those 18 shares had turned into 4,032 shares. I pulled up the current price. I typed it in. I stared at the number on my screen until my eyes stopped trying to reject it. $1,090,051. I sat there for a long second, phone in my hand, heart pounding hard enough to make me feel sick. Then I stood up quietly and walked to my grandma's door. I knocked once. She opened it immediately. "What is it?" she asked. I didn't say anything. I just held out my phone. She leaned forward, squinted, then straightened slowly. "Oh," she said. Not excited, not happy, just stunned. Because some numbers don't feel like money right away. They feel like a way out. 3 months later, I was standing in a house that belonged to us. I still had trouble saying that sentence without mentally adding "for now" at the end. The weeks after that night blurred together in a way that didn't feel dramatic so much as administrative. Phone calls, meetings, forms, a lot of waiting while people confirmed, reconfirmed, and then confirmed again that yes, the numbers were real, and yes, everything checked out. I didn't feel lucky. I felt suspicious. Every step came with this underlying sense that someone was about to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Sorry, this was a misunderstanding," but no one did. We didn't sell everything. We didn't need to. My grandma was firm about that. We sold a small part, just enough for a down payment, and left the rest alone. The idea was stability, not spectacle. The house wasn't enormous. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid, quiet. The kind of place where you could close the door and not feel like you were borrowing oxygen. Chloe picked her room first. She chose it carefully, like she was afraid someone might change their mind if she moved too fast. When she finally put the rabbit on the bed and looked up at me, she smiled. A real one. Not the careful version she'd been using since the hospital. "This one," she said. Helen moved in with us without ceremony. Ground floor bedroom, fewer stairs, practical choices that didn't need to be justified. It felt natural in a way I didn't question. What did surprise me was how long it took for the disbelief to wear off. Even after the boxes were unpacked, Even after Chloe started sleeping through the night again, I'd still catch myself standing in the hallway, half expecting someone to tell us we had to leave. The only contact I had with my parents during those 3 months was transactional. One trip back to their house, one silent unloading of boxes from the garage. No conversations, no apologies, no questions about Chloe, just logistics. After that, there was nothing. And for a while, I thought that might be the end of it. I wish it was. I was in the driveway watching Chloe draw chalk shapes on the pavement when I saw my parents walking down the street. I shouldn't have been surprised. We'd stayed in the same school zone so Chloe wouldn't have to change schools. Same grocery store, same sidewalks, same everything. It was always going to happen eventually. I just didn't expect that day. At first, they didn't see me. They were talking, walking slowly, like people killing time. Then my mom glanced up. She slowed. My dad took another step before realizing she wasn't beside him anymore. They both looked at the house. Not at me. At the house. I stayed where I was. Chloe kept drawing, crouched low, completely absorbed. My mom crossed the street first. "Jenna?" she said, uncertain now. "What are you doing here?" "Hi," I said. My dad frowned slightly. "Are you visiting?" The question landed exactly where it should have. "No," I said. My mom's eyes flicked back to the house. "So you're renting?" I shook my head. There was a beat where neither of them spoke. Chloe looked up then. "This is our house," she said, casual, like she was stating the weather. My mom's face tightened. "Your house?" My dad turned fully toward me. "You live here?" "Yes." That was the moment it hit. Not dramatically, not with shouting, just a visible recalculation they couldn't hide. My mom laughed once, too fast. "Since when?" "Since we moved in," I said. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "But how?" I didn't answer. Chloe tugged my sleeve. "Can I go inside? My hands are messy." "Yes," I said. "Wash them." She ran past me, chalk dust trailing behind her. My mom watched her go, then looked back at me. "Jenna, what's going on?" That's when my grandma stepped into the doorway behind me. She didn't announce herself. She just stood there. My mom froze. "Oh." My dad's jaw tightened. "So this is because of her?" "No," I said. "This is because of you." My mom recovered quickly. "If there's money involved, that concerns us." "Why?" I asked. "Because if there's inheritance, it doesn't," I said. "And it's none of your business." She smiled, brittle. "Don't be dramatic." My grandma spoke, calm and final. "You should leave." My mom snapped toward her. "This is between me and my daughter." My grandma didn't move. "This is my house too." Silence. The sidewalk suddenly felt very public. My mom's face hardened. "We'll talk about this later." "No," I said. "We won't." They stood there another second, then turned and walked away. I watched them go, chalk dust still bright on the pavement, and knew exactly one thing. They hadn't expected this, and they were not done. 2 weeks later, the letter arrived. I knew it was bad before I opened it. Envelopes don't feel heavy unless they're trying to ruin your day. I sat at the kitchen table and read it once. Then again. They were suing. Elder financial abuse, undue influence, claims that Helen wasn't capable of making decisions, claims that I had manipulated her, claims that the Apple stock belonged to my mom because it had been her father's. I stared at that line longer than the rest. The Apple stock. How did they even know about that? And how much did they know? My hands shook just enough to be annoying. Chloe watched me from the doorway. Are we in trouble? No, I said automatically, then quieter. We're going to talk to someone. The lawyer was not impressed. These cases happen all the time, she said, scanning the paperwork. People smell money and panic. Your grandmother is competent. The documentation is clean. This is intimidation. Helen snorted. I told you. Still, it rattled me, because it wasn't just money now. It was my parents deciding that if they couldn't control me, they'd try to threaten me legally. Around the same time, messages started trickling in. Is it true you took your mom's inheritance? Your parents are worried about Helen. This doesn't look good, Jenna. Smear campaign. Soft launch. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The truth doesn't require a press release. Then Chloe broke. She came home from school quiet one day, sat on the couch, and didn't touch her snack. Aiden kept asking questions, she said finally. What kind of questions? About the house. About money. She swallowed. I told him about the apple stock. My stomach dropped. What exactly did you say? That it was from great-grandma. That it was a lot. I didn't say numbers. She looked at me, eyes filling. Is that why Grandma and Grandpa are mad? I pulled her into my arms. No, this is not your fault. But, Chloe, I said firmly, adults are responsible for what adults do, not kids. She nodded against my shoulder, still shaking. That night, Helen made a decision. She moved the remaining stock into a trust, named me the sole beneficiary. Clean, locked. No room for interpretation. They don't get to scare you, she said. Or her. I slept that night, for the first time in months. The lawsuit unraveled faster than I expected. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, procedural way. My lawyer asked for documentation. Medical evaluations were submitted. Timelines were laid out in plain language. Then the letters stopped coming. No new filings, no follow-ups, no next steps. A week passed. Then another. When I asked my lawyer what that meant, she said, it usually means they don't want to keep pushing. After that, the tone changed. What had been accusations turned into misunderstandings. What had been urgent became vague. And eventually, there was nothing. I didn't let it end there. After the lawsuit fell apart, I filed a separate claim, small, specific, and very boring on paper, for what they had actually taken. The things they sold while Chloe was in the hospital. Not emotions, not trauma, not family dynamics. Just property, inventory, dates, receipts, a list of items with price tags attached. My lawyer warned me it wouldn't be dramatic. She was right. It wasn't. They pushed back at first. Not aggressively, just enough to pretend they were offended. Then the paperwork kept stacking up, and the pretending stopped. A few weeks later, the check arrived. It wasn't a fortune. A few $1,000s, roughly what they'd made selling Chloe's game console, tablet, headphones, and the rest of the things they decided she wasn't using. It felt almost insulting, considering everything, but that wasn't the point. When I held it in my hand, it felt real in a way the lawsuit never had. I sat Chloe down at the kitchen table and showed it to her. This, I said, tapping the paper, isn't a prize. She looked up at me. Then what is it? It's proof, I said, that what they did was wrong, and that people don't get to do that to you. She thought about that for a second, then nodded. So they can't do it again. No, I said. They can't. Word got out. Not about money, not about stocks, not about numbers, but about behavior. About selling a child's things while she was in the hospital. About pushing a single mother out and calling it fairness. About how my grandma had been treated years earlier when she stopped being useful. No announcements, no expose, just the quiet way people stop answering messages, stop inviting you over, stop defending you when your name comes up. My parents stopped calling after that. Not dramatically, just completely. Relatives stopped whispering. The questions dried up. The noise faded the way it always does when there's nothing left to justify. Sometimes I still stand in the kitchen and feel that disbelief flicker. From a garage full of boxes to this. From a sofa offered like charity to a front door I control. And every now and then, when Chloe laughs too loud or my grandma hums while she waters the plants, I think about how close we came to disappearing. And how we didn't. Not this time. So what do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.